European Publishing Congress 2026.
Hi all, welcome to our talk. And today we're going to talk about AI in journalism. And then you thought that it would be unique. Of course not. So what we're going to talk really about is, okay, how does this work now? Maybe that's the first thing which I need to focus on. Okay, this doesn't work.
I would love to help you. I just have no clue how.
Okay. So perfect. So this is not a product demo. This is not completely a future vision, but this is how we use AI into day-to-day business. Most of the AI talks we go to focuses on what machines can do by themselves. And what does that even mean? Machines, of course, can summarize an article. It can create headlines, so on and so forth. This is so not that talk. Here, we focus on reformation of the different workflows which we have at BILD, and to create new workflows which can help our newsroom grow. And this is only and only possible when humans and AI work hand in hand. The humans and machines complete each other. Most of the AI workflows which we have always have an 80-20 problem. So what does that mean? 80% of the quality can be easily achieved with just 20% of the effort. But the last 20% is the hardest. So the run from 80 to 100 is what actually matters. And the last 20% is where the real value lives. Of course, journalism is about speed. But do you really think it is only about speed? Not only, right? So it really focuses on how accurate the information is, what kind of trust the readers have into our system, what kind of judgment do we really bring as an author or the people who write the content. And at the end of the day, it's our responsibility because it's our brand which is at stake. As we all knew AI ages back, what did we know? It's ChatGPT, right? One prompt, one model, voila, you have an answer. But do you really think that's what AI is currently in the current era of AI? I don't think so. Fable, a model was introduced, amazingly for you guys and for me as well. And then it was discontinued by US and it was discontinued for me as well. So the real magic is in the system of all the agents and special editors working together to really get the work done. And what does system mean in the newsroom language? So let's focus on the different operating models of how the newsroom work. There are some of our colleagues here who actually know that tomorrow I'm going to go and do this X task. We need to write articles from the agencies, and that's what my job is tomorrow morning. So this is a very predictable work. And for such predictable work, we do have a sequential agentic framework. And what does that mean? Because that's a lot of words. That exactly means is that the agent output of one agent is fed as an input to yet another agent. So the example which I just gave you about the agency news articles to be written, let's go through that again. So what happens is, one of the agents, you get all the articles as input. The other agents decide whether this article even makes sense or not. If it doesn't, then the whole pipeline is killed right then, right there. If it does, then we generate a draft article. Now imagine you're a junior journalist and you wrote an amazing article, but you're unsure of what's going to happen. So then you pass this article to a set of special editors. And in agentic world, that is called the 7 different quality checks, as you can see. So there are 7 different agents which are practically working all together to check how consistent the article is, what kind of grammar is written, and is it all correct or not? Are the W questions of journalism really answered or not? The clarity, the logical structuring, so on and so forth. And finally, the results of all these agents are then consolidated and we refine the article yet once again. Once the article is refined, this is the article which we are proud of and we would love to publish it. But before that, we of course need to create headlines. We need to create SEO titles and stuff. We need to check the fact just once again. And for that, we again have different agents which run in parallel. And finally, there's a human in the loop who verifies everything, the whole information, and then it is directly imported to the CMSs. Now, we thought amazing, we cracked the code, but did we really? Because all the ideas or the workflows in newsroom, are they so predictable? I don't think so. And for the uncertain ideas, we had the most innovative product, and that was called Backseat. It is a multi-agent orchestration system. So what does that mean? It's very simple language. It is the editorial room in a technical world. Then, as you can see in the image, there is orchestrator, which is one agent which owns the run. Very easily said, it's practically an editor-in-chief in the newsroom who has the editorial power. Let's say today he comes and he says, you have to do so many different things. You have to verify the lead. You have to discover the new lead. You need to research on the topic. And of course, exactly the way the editor-in-chief delegated this task to different people, the orchestrator, our agent, spawns different agents to actually do that. So there are 3 different agents spawned for 3 different tasks. And the moment that's done, let's say I'm the one who is discovering the lead. For discovering the lead, what do I need to do? I need to check what happened at night. I need to check what kind of agencies covered stories. Of course, it's all interesting, but I'm overwhelmed. I'm a human. I cannot do everything on my own. And so, as agents can also get overwhelmed. That's a joke, of course. So what the agents do is they spawn sub-agents to really get the small little work done. And that's the beauty of Backseat. It's not one super agent or yet another AI tool which we just provide to the journalists. It's exactly the idea of journalists having special roles, being able to communicate with each other, all sitting at one desk to achieve a goal, where orchestrator is the main person, is the one which has the editorial power. It can kill the weak stories, it can follow up on the sensitive leads, and that's the beauty of Backseat. To really understand Backseat a tad more, let's actually focus on a concrete example. So at BILD, we do have a use case which is called Morning Briefing. It's not an end product which we provide to the users or consumers. It is a product which is used by the editors. So before even the day starts or the editor has his morning coffee, what he needs to do is he needs to check what exactly happened at night. This is the manual flow which I'm currently talking about, to discover what we can write in the future for. He needs to check all the different agencies. He needs to scan all the different competitors. Maybe there's some story which we didn't focus on and write about. We need to check the social media, so on, so forth. And then finally, the editor is exhausted, but he has a working document ready. And now the question is, how did we solve this with the Backseat? So again, there's an orchestrator, the one who has the command, who owns the run. Then there is this 8 different agents which are spawned. And these 8 different agents does all the tasks, which was of course done manually, but something more as well. So one checks what happened at night. One actually goes through your calendars and check maybe there are political talks which are lined up, which we need to focus on. And maybe there's an article coming out of it. One actually checks there were certain stories which were already written on BILD, and then we would like to follow up a story because that sounds quite fascinating and it would perform really good. So all these agents are then consolidated, the results are consolidated by yet another agent, which is called assembler agent, which is also called a deputy editor-in-chief, if I may. And then finally, this one clusters the whole idea and then creates a working document. So what exactly happened in this whole process? Why did we use Backseat? The work of the editor changed. Before, he was a scanner. He focused on formatting, filtering information. And now, he is pretty much the decision maker of all the agentic framework. So imagine every one of us here have their own small little newsroom. And that would be interesting. Before I will pass on to my colleague Daniel, I would actually focus on Upday. Upday is one of the news aggregator platform, which is also made by Axel. And we have the whole value proposition being done by AI. And what does that mean? The content creation, content discovery, to content creation, to content distribution. Everything is done by AI. And now I can, of course, talk about how brilliant this was. No, I'm not going to do that. We are going to talk about what were the editorial insights which were needed to make this thing work. Otherwise, this was not possible. And that's where we humans come in. So what happened is currently Upday is present in 7 different countries, 24 into 7 hours. Initially, we were discovering amazing news, and we created around 800 to 900 articles per day. And as you can imagine, it's a load of articles. And these articles, of course, needed an image. And how were we getting these images? Was Getty. Of course, we got these images and we thought, wow, we have everything ready. But the cost went exponentially high. And that's when we needed content balancing. And for that, we had the editorial people actually giving us the insight that even 30 to 40 articles per day per country would be enough to get the revenue rolling. So the lesson is not AI. The lesson is collaboration. If we technical people and the newsroom, we all sit together at one desk, we can unravel magic with AI. AI is a cultural change. It is not just a technical one. To shadow some lights, I will focus on Daniel.
Thank you so much. Um, sorry. First of all, I think it's our first time together on stage that engineering and product and editorial actually do the presentation together. Maybe this is just one sign of the cultural change Kashika has talked about. I just brought some learnings along the way, and maybe to get a better understanding, Kashika just showed you Upday, and now I'm going to talk about BILD again. We are all working kind of together. This is when you said, like, we're sitting on the second floor with the engineers and so on. So if we learn something here, we get something there, and it's all merged somewhere. I brought 3 learnings. The first one is, don't automate the old workflow, rethink it. I think that's quite a bold statement because, of course, it makes sense to automate some old workflows. But as you have talked a lot about the morning briefing, maybe just to give you one very easy example, when we first started to rebuild it, we were thought like, okay, in the morning we read the German wires, and then we look at our competitors, and then maybe we check some international New York Times websites, etc. And so we rebuilt this with agentic workflows. And somebody just had the good idea to say, wait a minute, in an age of AI, language doesn't matter. Why do we limit ourselves to German and English? Why don't we just take the whole world and look at what's happening? Before we kind of relied on our gut feeling, is this a good story or not? Now we can actually do AI-based or with embeddings, predictions, is this story going to perform well at BILD? So what we started and tried to create, and we're still not there yet, is not just an automated morning briefing, but actually a morning briefing that wasn't possible before, with lots of APIs and lots of functions to actually find more data and produce more value than we had before. So this is how we look at things, what we build. Now, when it comes to our own role, I think we've discussed this many times already today. What is the value that makes us unique? I just wrote down 2 sentences. Please quit asking, how can AI make my work easier? And please quit asking or claiming, oh, okay, it's okay-ish there, but it's not doing it as good as I do. I'm pretty convinced that if AI is almost as good as you in writing or something, this is just going to be a few weeks and it's going to go past it. And at the same time, AI always feels like a threat. We try to look at it from a different perspective and ask, what is this one thing or the 2 things or 3 things that only I can do? And I think we can fill in those bullet points together when it comes to the final judgment, the responsibility, the direct human contact. Down there you see research. I crossed that out on purpose because I think this is something that's not unique to humans. AI can do wonderful research, and it can also uncover wonderful data patterns or stories that used to be invisible just because a human was not able to discover this kind of data. But of course, there is investigation, etc., that is unique to the humans. So this is the one question we started to ask ourselves. And the other one is actually where the fun lies. What is there that only I and AI can do together? And we've discussed that before as well, to say we actually gain new superpowers. We can now build things the way we've never were able to do that before. We have creative storytelling. We can do so many fact checkings, deep researches, etc. We can personalize every article. We can, like, I don't know, go way beyond the boundaries of an article. And this is all now possible if AI and humans team up. And now the last one is a very practical learning from the newsroom. And it's basically thanks to Mandy Axel, who's sitting here in the first row. She's the deputy editor-in-chief of BILD. And I thought we are there as soon as we move editors to the engineering teams and we build those things together. But it ended up that we built headline generators and everything, and it still felt like a foreign product to the newsroom. So Mandy kind of decided that for every system, for every product, for whatever we build with AI, we pick an owner from the newsroom and who's usually the best in this specific discipline. So when it comes to the morning briefing or when it comes to agencies, etc., we ask an editor from the newsroom to really take ownership, not just to give feedback and to criticize and say, oh, AI is not as good as I, but they come down, they work on the product, they start with prompting. Sometimes they even build their own agentic systems. And in the end, this person with the most newsroom credibility can stand in the middle of the newsroom and say, okay, now this is the best product ever. I've been working with this. I believe in this. And this is when it took off for us, when actually other colleagues said, okay, if he says so, that must be true. And I guess now I have the honor of closing the thing and the key takeaways. Two of them are from your part of the presentation. I think what you just said, the 80-20 thing, this is so annoying because lots of times you have editors-in-chief who just say, I've seen this demo and it was so marvelous, and you have to invest so much to really shape your own brand, to really work on the details, to finally get the agents to use the right quotation marks, because for some reason at BILD we have those quotation marks in this way. I think this is where the power and the magic of the brand lies, because we all have the same, basically big LLM models, and this is not going to be the differentiator. The second thing is the collaboration. It's the first time that journalists all of a sudden can write code, and it's the first time that engineers all of a sudden can use AI to write wonderful articles. So it only makes sense to team them up and to work together on the product. And I think maybe as the closing remark, our perspective, how we look at AI, is that it is about better journalism. Ole Reisman said this morning, he rather believes in the human on the loop than in the loop. I'd also say, let's talk about the expert. Like, what can we actually add that makes it unique, that makes the product better? It's not only about efficiency. And this is something we've seen over the past few months, that if you hand those AI capabilities as a superpower to creative journalists, that's when you don't have to be afraid about the future of journalism anymore, but it's actually becoming a way better product. Thank you so much.